Thanks so much. Hi everyone. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. We're in heart of Silicon Valley. We're talking about the future of technology. We're a lot of great speakers, including Dan before and Eric after here. So you're going to hear about genetics. You're going to hear about the future of meat and food and AI. What am I going to talk about? Well, I'm going to talk about the future of work, as my slide says, and specifically the future of work in a world in which there's lots of really advanced AI, and as Dan said, AI is the new electricity, and also a world in which there's lots of smart robots. So what's our place in the world if we have AI and smart robots? Now, there's a bunch of people out there that are really scared about the future. Elon Musk, surprisingly, is one of them. He's worried about the AI apocalypse. He wants to build some rockets to get us out of the Earth in case AI does come to pass or something. There are people that are uncertain about what the future looks like. And when all this technology comes out, what happens? What happens to our work? What happens to our jobs? At Kindred, we don't share that perspective. We're actually pretty excited about the future. We're excited about what the future could be. We believe that the future that we want to create is a future filled with intelligent machines that make our lives better, that make us better human beings. And machines do what they do best, we do what we do best. So I'm going to talk a bit about what's happening in the world today. I'm going to talk a bit about what we do and what we're seeing the future of work could be. So let's take a step back. The real world is gigantic, it's messy, it's complicated, it's unpredictable, it's constantly changing. As our technologies evolve, humans change how they interact with each other. So it's really messy. The short story is, it is extremely messy. It is not predictable. So anyone that tells you that they can predict the future, I would be very skeptical. What we do know about the future is, it's growing even bigger than it is today. In about 100 years, there's going to be anywhere between 3 billion to 6 billion more people on the planet. That's, for context, that's 6 times the population of America. So 6 Americas in the world to 18 Americas in the world. So where are these people going to live? How are they going to move around? How are you going to feed them? How are they going to be healthy? How are they going to get healed? We haven't started asking these questions. There's more people shopping. 3 times as many people as there are today are going to be shopping and expecting things, buying things, going to restaurants, going to hospitals, going to events like this, right? There's going to be more people shopping in a few years than there are in the planet today. But while there are more people on the planet, more people doing things, more people getting money, there are actually going to be fewer people able to do the work. As populations around the world, including the US, Europe, and Asia, they start to age, there are actually fewer people that are going to be able to do the things that we want to do. So what's really happening in the next 20, 30 years is that there's going to be more and more demand, more and more people like us who want what we want, but we won't be able to service it, we won't be able to give them what they want. And people are being less productive. So what I got excited about 5-6 years ago, as I asked this question, like what happens if all this growth is coming and we can't service the growth? We started seeing a few trends, right? We started seeing drones. They went from being a lab curiosity to being popular toys and video cameras and all that. DJI popularized drone technology. You can now buy a drone for like $100, and something that was not possible 5 years ago. We started seeing drones start monitoring the Earth. There's a company in San Francisco called Sail Drone that right now is sailing around oceans around the world, mapping temperatures, temperature of the ocean, capturing data about chemical composition, and right now it's happening. We have space drones. Elon Musk is building a rocket ship that can take people, satellites, and other equipment into space and come back down. It's another type of drone. And we have a drone that's going to affect our lives very, very soon. The automotive drone, the self-driving drone. It's going to radically transform how we move around from city to city, how we get to work. It's going to dramatically reduce accidents. And all of this is really exciting. And I got excited about this. But then we also noticed that all these robots are moving things around. They're moving things from one place to another. But what happens at some point? You have to touch it. You gotta interact with it. You gotta interact with stuff. And how do you get a robot to interact with stuff? When we started the company, when we started Kindred, what we actually wanted to build was a robot for everybody, a robot in the home. I grew up on Jetsons. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up on Jetsons. And I wanted to build Rosie the robot. I was promised I would have it by the time I got old, and I'm old now. And I don't have it yet. It's still not here in my house yet. So we tried to build it. And so we went around the country. We went to the Midwest. We went to the East Coast, the West Coast, cities, suburbs, and we talked to people. If we could build a robot, what would you want it to do for you? And pretty much everyone said the same thing, whether they were in a city or a farm or in a rural part of the country. They wanted the robot to do something for them. They wanted to help them. Everyone's busy. Everyone's running around, working around the clock, taking care of kids, doing the groceries, doing the chores. They wanted the robots to do something in the house. Empty the dishwasher, take care of the kid, like watch the kids, just keep an eye on them. Let the cat or the dog in. So all these robots had to touch something in the world and do something in the world. And we then ran into what's known as Moravec's paradox. This is a concept in robotics where things that you and we take for granted, robots can't do. You and I can pick up any object you put in front of us. A 2-year-old can pick up any object put in front of the 2-year-old. Usually eat it, suck on it, whatever. Sometimes you don't want to do that, but it can. But a robot can't. Robots are dumb. Robots are actually not smart. What you also realize when you study the human brain is that 99% of the brain is actually designed to do very few simple things. Walk around, touch things, feel things, sense things. The thinking part of our brain is a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of it. Most of it is how do we move this body that we live in to different places. So we thought, okay, so what do we do with this? We did what everyone else does. We procrastinated. We went online. We started shopping. We started doing things, playing with our, brick breaker back in the day. And then we thought, wait a second. All this stuff that comes to us from Amazon, from Bay, from Kohl's, Home Depot, you name it, how does it get to us? Like I just click a button and things come to me. And around the world, millions and millions of people are shopping today. And when we looked into it, what we found out was it's just people. People, a million people around the US in warehouses just picking up things from a shelf, putting it into a box, and shipping it out. And so we asked ourselves, wait, there's no robots here. What's going on? Like, why aren't there robots? That's because robots can't do this work. So we went and did this work in a bunch of warehouses, and what we realized was it is really awful work. It's horrible work. Like you get tired within a few hours. You're walking 12 miles a day in a warehouse with not a lot of air, not a lot of heat. It's as cold as this in the winter, and it's super hot in the summer. And it's a miserable job, and nobody wants to do it, and no one should do this job. And I started getting guilty about my e-commerce shopping habits. I was like, shit, I'm buying all this stuff, and somebody is suffering in a warehouse somewhere to get these things to me. So we thought, what could we do about this? So here in San Francisco, our office is just down the street. We started looking at how do you give a robot brains? How do you make a robot smart? How do you teach it what we know? How do we teach it to interact with objects? So we started building robots. We use regular robots. We take a robot that you might find in any facility, any manufacturing facility at Toyota or Tesla or whatever, and we put our brains behind it to do the work. So this is our lab here in San Francisco. And we've built this. We take an industrial robot like this. It looks like a regular robot. And this robot can pick up any object. No robot in the world can do this today except our robot. And there's a magic to how we do this, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But this robot can pick up any object. It can pick it up faster than a human. It can work 24/7, doesn't take breaks. And right now it's working at Gap. So if you go to Tennessee, you'll see it working in the Gap facility. And if you ordered stuff from Gap this winter, this holiday season, our robot probably touched it and put it in a box so that you guys could give it as gifts to your family. So how does it work? There's two parts to this robot. There's the brains, and this is a look into what the robot thinks. The robot sees what's in front of it. It simulates, it uses one of different algorithms that we can program. We can control how we program it, and it simulates different ways to grab the object. And then, if it feels confident, if it thinks like, I can do this, it goes and tries to pick up the object. Now, how do we teach this robot how to do it? Well, this is where the humans in the loop come in for us. You've heard of VR, you've heard of augmented reality. Well, we use VR in a very different way. We use VR to immerse the human brain into the robot so that the human can teach the robot how to pick up an object. So this is one of our pilots. As you can see, they can see what the robot sees. They have control over the robot, and they can have it do the task. What this means is that our people can now teach these robots extremely complex tasks. Now, the real world is still messy and unpredictable, like I said, so humans can't, robots can't be taught everything, but we can teach them quite a bit so they can do the hard work. They can do the repetitive, painful work in a factory, carrying the heavy items, carrying all the goods that go into your store, whether it's tied containers, what have you. And then the work changes. So what we're realizing, as we're creating this technology, as we're seeing where the world's going, is that we actually have an opportunity to rethink how we do work. Humans are very good at a bunch of things. We're creative, we're intuitive, we have judgment, we can operate in an unseen environment, we can be thrown somewhere, and we can figure out how to survive in that environment. Robots are good at something else. They can do the same thing repetitively. You can tell them where to go, and they'll go in that direction. You can tell them to circumnavigate the globe 20 times, and they will do it without complaining. So how do we marry the two together? And so what we believe is, it's not about AI or humans. It's not about replacing humans with AI. It's not about replacing humans with robots. It's about figuring out how do we bring the two together. How do we let humans do what they do best, and how do we have robots doing what they do best? So this is an example in Gap facility in Tennessee. This worker used to be doing multiple jobs, but now, which required a lot of effort, a lot of intensity, working like 100 times an hour, picking up these objects from different places. She now gets to unload the robot while the robot does all the heavy lifting. And if you ask her how she likes her job, she's so much more excited with the work, she's less tired, she can work for longer. And this is how we see the world changing. We also don't believe that the rise of AI or robots or any of these technologies diminishes who we are. In fact, it's the opposite. I think throughout history, if you look at how we're expected to work, we've been made to work more robotically. So you go to an Amazon facility, you're expected to work like a machine for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, repetitively. Humans don't do mundane, repetitive work well. That's not who we are as humans. What machines can do is help us regain our humanity and do what we do best: creativity, intuition, judgment, exploration. That's what we do well, and that's how we marry the two together. So rather than sitting in a warehouse, freezing in the winter, boiling in the summer, we can sit in front of a computer in a comfortable environment, teaching the robot what to do, taking control when it doesn't know what to do. We can, rather than sitting and programming robots, we can immerse ourselves in the robots to teach them how to do these complex tasks, right? And the robot could be anywhere in the world. Imagine Fukushima, when that accident happened. Rather than sending divers in, which they had to do at some point, you can send these machines in, disaster recovery. You can do all that now. And the jobs of the future are going to look very different. It's not the jobs of today. This is an example of some of the jobs that are hired for by the self-driving car companies. You need people to help the robots learn. You need people to help the robots categorize what are they seeing. What are they seeing through their LiDARs? What are they seeing through the cameras? What are they seeing through their sensors? At Kindred, we hire pilots. We have a staff of 10 pilots in a control center in Toronto, actually, that are working with our researchers to help them improve the algorithms, and they're working with our robots to help the robots learn. And we're hiring a lot of them. That's actually a third of our company right now, and it's growing. And we use this program to both, again, make our robots smarter, but also bring in people who maybe they were used to be a warehouse worker, but now they can work controlling a robot and work with the robot. So to summarize, I'm very excited about the future. I'm excited about where AI is going. I'm excited where robotics is going. After 4 years of working on robots, what I can tell you is it's really, really hard. And anyone who says that robots are going to take over the world don't know what they're talking about. And they haven't actually worked on a real robot. You can ask my daughter. She'll tell you it's hard. So you should be excited. And what I urge you all to do you're all here, so that's awesome. You're here to look at the future. Listen, learn, educate yourselves. It's not complicated stuff. And just keep your eyes open for how things are shifting. And most of all, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you all.